What I want to do today is actually take you back in time to November of 2008 and then reflect on the future in terms of technology and the creative destruction that's about to be unleashed. So in November of 2008, President Obama was just elected, and he did something that no other president had ever done. He put in place a transition team that was focused on technology, innovation, and government reform. Historically, we'd had many transition teams that had focused on whether it was healthcare, national security, or the economy, but for the first time, the president recognized that the power of technology to transform the course of the nation. And I had the honor to be part of that transition team, and I remember spending countless hours and evenings fueled by coffee in this nondescript building in Washington, D.C., where we thought about the role of tech in not just changing the way the government operates, but also how can you use technology to increase the global competitiveness of the United States? And what would you do to actually make sure that you're fundamentally rethinking entire sectors of the economy, whether it was infrastructure, whether it was our education system, whether it was healthcare. But at the same time, we had to contend with the reality that government operations had to be transformed. And I remember shortly after the president came into office, I got a call, and I was asked to serve as the Chief Information Officer for the United States. And I remember walking to the White House, and it almost felt like a dream where you're pinching yourself. And you had a Marine, saluting you as I entered the White House for the first time, entered my office. I was met with my new team. And they said, "Congratulations, Mr. Kundra. You're now responsible for managing an $80 billion technology budget for the United States." And then they proceeded to hand me a stack of PDF documents. And they said, "By the way, here are $27 billion of IT projects that are years behind schedule and millions of dollars over budget." And I was like, wow, what a great welcome I'm having here today. And then I found out that mobile devices in the government were actually assigned based on the square footage of your office and the number of years you'd been in government. If you remember, even the president had to fight tooth and nail just to get his BlackBerry. And it became very clear to me that there was this huge gap in information technology between how the government operated and what the American people were used to. Think about the average life of an American who is trying to book an airline ticket or make a reservation to their favorite restaurant or buy a book for that matter. They can go on OpenTable and within seconds they can make a reservation to their favorite restaurant. They can go on Amazon and buy a book that will show up on their doorsteps the next day, and in some cases the same day. They can go on Expedia or a whole host of other sites and buy a ticket to anywhere on the planet. Yet, when it comes to dealing with your government in general, you've got to wait in a physical line, you've got to hold on the phone, or you've got to submit a 3-part paper form. That was the gap between what was going on in the public sector IT markets versus what was happening in the consumer web. And part of that is a function of how technology was being bought. So very quickly, I decided to be very, very focused around 4 big areas to drive this transformation. Number one was to make sure that we were effectively managing the $80 billion that the United States government spends every year. Number two was to fundamentally rethink infrastructure. The US government spends about $24 billion a year on just IT infrastructure, data centers, network gear. 3 was to fundamentally rethink cybersecurity, because we had moved away from an era where you had teenagers who were hacking into our systems for fun, to where you now had nation states and organized crime that were coming after key US government assets and the broader economy. And the 4th and the most important area was actually around creating a more open, transparent, and participatory democracy. Because at the end of the day, it was about shifting power away from the hands of a few in Washington to the people, to the republic itself.